Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And this is The Present Financial Crisis in the Light of Philosophy, Part 2, by Manly P. Hall. An article taken from The All-Seeing Eye, Volume 5, Number 4, January 1931. The Present Financial Crisis in the Light of Philosophy, Part 2, by Manly P. Hall. And now we come to an interesting problem. The American people are more or less tricky. During the past years, for an unknown reason, they have been building up their savings accounts, which jumped forward to the sum of over $2 billion. These savings accounts mean the little man's money. $50, $100, $500, or maybe $1,000. The year just previous to this stock crash, for the first time in 10 years, the savings accounts dropped. And last year holds the keynote to our financial condition in the depleted savings accounts in the vast body of the proletarian. Now, out of all these symptoms, we have created a new picture, a picture that must be very carefully studied. The World War produced an enormous demand. The United States was in a favored position to take advantage of the world industrial situation. Her manufacturing activities were immensely increased. Corporations were organized and stock floated, which produced enormous profits. But this condition did not last. After the war, depleted Europe resumed its industrial activities, and the market for United States products was again constricted by European competition. The result was the United States had a producing plant greater than the market to consume its products, one of the most dangerous conditions that can exist with any people. It is here that the inherent genius for trickery of the American mind shows itself. When legitimate markets are no longer available, this genius turns to preying upon the weaker-minded people of our own country. This it does by inducing them to gamble, or, as it is euphemistically called, invest in the stock market in such a way as to hazard their savings in order to make sudden gains. During the past few years, there has been much propaganda toward introducing the great mass of wage earners into the intricacies of speculation. It has been demonstrated to them beyond all doubt that any individual who will invest his money at 6% is an idiot, and that he should never invest unless he can get a fortune the first year. Gold bricks have been peddled like collar buttons and shoestrings, and individuals without training, without realization of the background, have come to the conclusion that the stock market has turned into a humanitarian enterprise, and it has cost them plenty to find out that it hasn't. The stock market is, comparatively speaking, a closed corporation and even a greater risk than Monte Carlo. Now imagine for a moment that as a small stockholder, you have played with the bulls and the bears. You realize that not only do you take the chance of your stock going up or down, but whichever way it goes, you lose. It is fixed that way. It isn't the fact that if it goes up a point, you make $1, and if it goes down a point, you lose $1. If it goes up a point, you make $1, but if it goes down a point, you lose 10. It is a very effective method of relieving the proletarian of superfluous cash. So you pay to play against a cold deck. The fluctuation in stock depends upon the condition of the company which issued those stocks. It signifies the condition of the pool controlling that stock at the moment. That pool needs watching. You do not know what it will do, but the thing it does will break you every time with mathematical regularity. And unless an individual knows more about the subject than most investors do, he is riding for an inevitable fall. Stock gambling thrives upon individual cupidity. The whole thing falls back upon the besetting sin of the average individual, namely that he wants something for nothing. The only way that you can lure him into such an enterprise is to promise him something that he is not technically entitled to. Then, when he does not get it, he is very much upset. Now we come to another interesting problem in American finance, and that is how to make your money work for you. No doubt you have all heard that argument. 10 hogs will send your son through college. 1/4 acre of citrus fruit and retire. 10 acres of alfalfa will make you a millionaire. If the individual were philosophically minded, he would realize certain facts of national integrity. Unless money is distributed rather evenly, something cracks. But strange as it may seem, we buy. When any faction, political or economic, comes into control of more than a certain percentage of money, the whole national integrity is in danger. And here we have the reason why the savings accounts went down. Men with $1,000 wanted to be millionaires. They were working against a combination that simply cannot be beaten. That does not mean that an individual does not occasionally beat the game, temporarily at least. It has been estimated, however, that the most unfortunate thing that a man can do is to beat the stock exchange. From that day on, he is ruined. From that time, he will never be an honest man again, for he will live in terms of lottery and chance. The best thing for the investor is to lose his first investment and lose it hard. Then he will come down to the realization of the value of a dollar. When your dollar is worth more than 100 cents, somebody else's dollar is worth less than 100 cents because there are only just so many cents to each dollar. Besides the conditions mentioned, we have still another element to consider, and that is the development of the machine age, whereby the national productivity has been immensely increased, but our knowledge of how to distribute the benefits properly among the members of society has not kept pace with our knowledge of mechanical improvements. We have, in fact, the problem of the development of a national morality that requires foresight and farsight in those who shall lead our people. This country must adopt true philosophical and scientific principles, or it will inevitably go down to national disaster. The basis of that philosophical system must be the recognition of the fact that the quality and integrity of the individual must be supported by the social system in which he lives. These truths should be self-evident. 1. That in an industrial sense, an individual is worth only what he produces. 2. That an individual is entitled to a certain percentage of his own production. 3. That the only basis for increased income of the individual should be his increased personal value to society at large or the industrial unit in which he functions. Wherever a man has a dollar that he has not earned, another man has lost a dollar without getting anything for it. It does not show up immediately since the vicious circle is very wide, but in the body politic it will show up. For where you have millions of people and the transfer of vast sums of money for which there is no tangible evidence or reason, you have financial insecurity. So we return to our original premise of the American being a natural financier. He likes to work with money, and the situation is steadily becoming worse. The stock crash is only indicative of the tendency in this field of exploitation. Now, faced with all these problems as we are today, what is the philosophical answer? What is the inevitable result of this condition upon the people? To begin with, we find individual integrity undermined. We find the individual no longer honestly ambitious. The present attitude toward money paralyzes the desire to improve self. He is ambitious only in the field of exploitation. Men are educated in the science of exploiting each other. The average individual becomes a human hunter who is out just as surely as a meat hunter or a seal hunter looking for the pelt of his neighbor. And many a man knows what it means to be skinned. It is positively dangerous in these days to have it known that you have a dollar. People sit around at night trying to think you out of that dollar. They plan to get your dollar and give nothing, at any rate, to give as little as possible. This is the short-sighted business system. Hence, everyone who has anything must guard it with his life because somebody else wants it. It is virtually a state of affairs where each individual stalks the other, like you do game, waiting, hoping that he will discern some method of sandbagging him genteelly. The psychological salesman is trained to prey upon one faculty in the human mind, and that faculty is cupidity. If he can awaken your cupidity, he will get your money. So it follows that the world is filled with investments financed upon this quality inherent in human nature. We will not have proper government until the wisest and ablest administer the concerns of government. The true right of possession should be determined by the will to use that possession well. And until that is done, nature will continually interfere to dispossess those who do not cooperate with this principle. We represent a government of the people, sometimes by the people and occasionally for the people. Until individual value is based upon individual integrity, we shall never have financial solidarity, for solidarity is not the possession of property or affairs, but the able administration of them. At the present time, money is manipulated by the fingers of intrigue, and so we have sorrow and trouble. This country has too much power per capita and not enough integrity. Wherever a condition exists in which the individual or the masses are victimized to serve either corporate interests or personalities, we have fertile reasons for national disaster and decay. Hundreds of years ago, it was predicted that this nation would be destroyed, not by a foreign, but by an internal foe. For it would be hard to find a nation strong enough to break us by war, invasion, or anything of that kind. Our deadly enemy is finance. Whether the American people can break the vicious circle of our financial system is problematical. If, however, the system is not broken, national disaster is certain. Today we have a civilization which, in the terms of one of America's own leading financiers, deals entirely in terms of dollars. It is not improbable that someday we will say, "Who is that man walking down the street?" And the reply will be, "That is $4.50. Our first and only name for such a person will be his cash value. The dollar has become the basis of hate, the basis of friendship, the basis of ethics, the basis of most of life's relationships. Your dollar acts the way you do. Someone truly said that we have nothing of ourselves, but that all we have is that which the universe loans to us while we are here. We are rich in truth only through the experience which we have gained from the right use of that which is loaned to us. There is much to be learned from the study of money, for money is a mirror in which are reflected the souls of men. Your dollar is a living picture of yourself, responding to the subtlest impulses of your mind, shadowing your conceit, manifesting your weakness, and as intriguing as your own self. Ignorance and cupidity are the two qualities upon which dishonesty thrives. And every individual who does not stand for what he believes is guilty of one or the other. So out of the aftermath of this stock crash, out of the wild gyrations of our financial values, we come to the realization no longer to be ignored that we have translated the altar of God into a cash register and transformed the ethical systems of mankind into a gigantic instrument of exploitation. We have taken life, our thoughts, our hopes, yes, even each other's muscles, sinews and nerves, and reduced them to commercial terms. We have taken lofty aspirations and ruthlessly sacrificed them to the most cruel and senseless system of living ever devised by man. We have forgotten to dream, forgotten to hope, forgotten to love, forgotten to understand or aspire in this vain effort to acquire the wealth of the universe. But if we should acquire all the gold there is, we would be poorer than on the day we started. No nation can be just a banking house. If we are unresponsive to the charms of truth and beauty, if we underrate the value of human character, if we sacrifice the eternal for the temporal, we have reached and passed the zenith of our accomplishment and, like the decadent races of the past, must sink into a nameless grave. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.